Friday Night Stars, presented by WHATABURGER, is brought to you by Geico, 85 years of savings and service. Texas Lottery, play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. And by WHATABURGER. Stop on by WHATABURGER and try the patty melt today. It's an all-time favorite for a reason.
It's the second week of the Texas high school football playoffs, and this is Friday Night Stars. Bill Jones along with Kyle Youmans inside the Globe Life studios here at the Star in Frisco as the big playoff weekend gets started. And you know, Kyle, the goal of a lot of teams in Texas is to be practicing on Thanksgiving Day. To be able to practice on Thanksgiving Day, you got to win this week. It's a huge weekend.
And it is so hard to get to this point. Now you've gotten past that by-district round. Now you get into area, and there's so many good teams still remaining. This is where you start seeing the clashes happen. We're going to go through a couple of those throughout the course of this show because this is really where you start to see the best of the best start to shine and separate themselves amongst Texas high school football.
Yep, we saw a lot of blowouts in the first round
exactly right.
last week. One of those featured the Aledo Bearcats, and Aledo is featured in the WHATABURGER game of the week this week. And I'm telling you, this is not going to be a blowout this week. It's the 11-0 Aledo Bearcats taking on the 10-1 Liberty Redhawks from Frisco ISD.
Man, and this is such a fun game because I've seen both of these teams, and one of the teams that was tabbed as a potential to knock off the Aledo Bearcats were the Lovejoy Leopards. Well, guess what? Liberty knocked off the Lovejoy Leopards. So does that by chance say that Frisco Liberty has the opportunity to take down the Bearcats? I think they definitely can. However, Aledo is still by far the favorite. They have so many weapons on both sides of the football. They've scored 77 points, not once, but twice in a row, Bill Jones. The last two games, they put up 77 points, 3 players over 350 rushing yards this season. But it's really Ryan Williams, the tailback. There you see him, number 5 at Toyota Stadium there, running all over a Lone Star defense that we already know is pretty darn good. And then you've got Brian Fleming as the wide receiver. Those two are the main threats. Then you've got Jason Llewellyn at tight end, an Oklahoma commit. Very physical tight end. The Bearcats can beat you in a bunch of different ways. As for Liberty, they're going to rely a lot on Keldrick Luster, a dual-threat quarterback, one of the best in the country, and that's statistically proven. He's up there over 1,000 yards rushing, 2,000 yards passing, and a very good front seven as well from that Liberty Redhawks defense. They cannot afford to get in a shootout. Liberty has to win the time of possession because if not, Aledo will make them pay.
And how about the performance by Keldrick Luster last week in by-district in a 45-21 win over Forney? Luster, the quarterback for Liberty, was 19 out of 23 for 242 yards, 3 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, he ran 15 times for 159 yards and 2 more scores. All right, game number 2, our playoff games to watch this week. We'll stay in Class 5A as it's in Division 2, Region 1. It's the Ennis Lions of Coach Sam Harrell, unbeaten on the season, taking on the Timberview Wolves from Mansfield, coached by James Brown.
Yeah, Ennis 11-0 out of that really tough district slate, but I don't know if they've faced anyone quite like Timberview. Trey Lewis is a cornerback on the Ennis sideline that has 3 interceptions this season, but he's going to be facing guys like quarterback Jaden Marshall, who has 1,500 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Jarvis Reed with over 1,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. Sam Harrell has his hands full with those 2 guys in the defense for Ennis that's going to really have to find a rhythm. Timberview, on the other hand, put up 72 points in their first-round matchup against Dallas Kimball. Kimball, a pretty good team over the course of the year, but Timberview not facing a team like Ennis as well on their sideline. This is a team that scored over 40 points in all 7 of their wins this year, and they started 1-3 but have won 6 of their last 7. So I'm interested to see how Ennis gets their quarterback Jackson Gilkey going. He's had over 2,000 passing yards this season, but it's also Grayson Harris, the wide receiver, who's had a phenomenal year as well. This is going to be a good matchup, and the winner gets either Lovejoy or Burleson.
Yep.
So second-round match or third-round matchups that could be pretty enticing as well.
Yeah, more on that coming up in just a little bit. And Timberview, battle-tested coming out of that same district that produced Aledo, of course, as the district champion. All right, Class 6A, Division 1, Region 1. It's the Fighting Farmers of Louisville, 10-1 on the season, taking on the Martin Warriors from Arlington.
And the winner of this one gets South Lake Carroll. How about that for a nice little trophy of winning it? And by the way, these two teams, have a lot of of history. Last year in the playoffs, Arlington Martin won that game 68-0 after they went up 44-0 at the end of the first quarter. They really got ahead of the Farmers.
I remember that. That's
right. You remember that game? yeah, exactly. Louisville probably remembers that game as well. Damian Martinez is going to be the go-to for the Farmers, and you have to limit the duo on the other side of Sergio Snyder and Tristan Biddle, but this is a Louisville team. Defensively, they've been stout. Offensively, of course, they rely on the ground game quite a bit with Martinez. Expect a really high-scoring game in this one. If you want to look at the comparative between the two sides, they've faced 3 common opponents this year. Both teams won all 3 games. However, the one biggest difference is that Louisville's Hail Mary win over Hebron at the end of the season, well, Martin beat them 59-15. So there's a little contingency back and forth that think that this could be a blowout, but I don't expect it to be. I expect it to be a high-scoring affair.
You see number 6 there, Damian Martinez. He's now playing with a cast on his hand. Scored 3 touchdowns in their by-district win last week over McKinney Boyd, and he is one of the top running backs in all of North Texas, headed, of course, to Oregon State. All right, how about this? At the home of the Rangers, Globe Life Field, we've got a triple header coming up on Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. with Cedar Hill against Tyler Legacy, the middle game, Rockwall and DeSoto, and the nightcap, South Lake Carroll and Midland Legacy.
In all 3 games, these are fantastic. Starting with the morning slot, how about Tyler Legacy last week? A huge win, a 1-point ball game for Coach Joe Willis' squad over Garland, who was previously unbeaten in the regular season. Then you have Duncanville, Allen, Rockwall, DeSoto as the only losses for Cedar Hill. Then you look at that middle game, Rockwall and DeSoto. I think outside of maybe Lone Star and College Station that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show, this might be one of the top 3 games in the state. I mean, this is 2 high-flying attacks. You've got Braden Locke on one side for Rockwall and the Yellow Jackets. You have so many different weapons back and forth. Globe Life Field's going to be really rocking on Saturday. That's a lot of fun football to be had.
It will be fun. Rockwall winning last week 55-14, and DeSoto put up 65 points on Colleen Harker Heights in by district last week. And of course, then the Carroll Dragons, ranked 3rd in the state in Class 6A, will finish off the weekend. We are just getting started on this edition of Friday Night Stars. And how about the showdowns at the Star? We preview those when we come back in just a moment.
This segment was brought to you by WHATABURGER. Order online using the app or at WHATABURGER.com for curbside pickup from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or delivery. This segment is brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big.
Time for one of the 2 showdowns at the Star this weekend on Friday night at Ford Center. In Class 6A, Division II, Region 1, the Denton Geyer Wildcats taking on the Jesuit Rangers. It should be a very nice matchup as Geyer trying to at least duplicate what they did last year, go all the way to the state semifinals.
Yeah, and they have the firepower to certainly do so. Both teams at 10-1, and both teams, I think, feel like they've been disrespected around the league, and this is a great opportunity to try and show that they deserve a little bit of respect. Jesuit's a team that averages just under 45 points per game. They've won 9 straight games, and you look at how that's going to be tested against this Geyer defense that's held 7 opponents to 17 points or less. I mean, you look at the offensive firepower for both of these teams. They certainly have it, but it's really Geyer's defense that could pay dividends in this one and really push things to the brink.
Yeah, and one of the players I'd like to feature on Jesuit is their running back / safety. I think he may even punt for them. He does a little bit of everything. Brandon Hickman, the head coach for Jesuit, talking about Robert Fitzgerald. In fact, when I solicited the opinion of all the local high school coaches, over 100 of them, Brandon Hickman responded to me for the Landry Award. He said Robert Fitzgerald would be a great candidate for the Landry Award. He's headed to Northwestern, does a lot of stuff in the community there at Jesuit, and very smart as well. And he scored 5 touchdowns last week in their by-district win over Arlington, a game in which they won 69-36. Notable playoff games. Take a look at some of these starting tonight at Globe Life Field, home of the Rangers. It's South Oak Cliff against Frisco, and then in Allen on Friday night, Highland Park in Frisco, Wakeland, and Lone Star against College Station, too.
Oh, man. And once again, going back to all three of these, I love all three of these games. I'll start with South Oak Cliff and Frisco. I mean, Coach Todd's squad and Coach Harbert's squad, two completely different, contrasting styles. Sock likes to spread it out. They'll get you in a foot race. They have the athletes all the way around the field that can really turn it up a notch and get you in a foot race and beat you in it as well. Whereas Frisco's more of a physical ground and pound. They're going to run the rock 3 yards in a cloud of dust in the triple option. You're going to have different ways of playing the football game between those two sides. And then I mentioned that Lone Star and College Station game down there at the bottom. It is a shame that this game has to be played in the second round because College Station is the number 2 team in 5A, Lone Star number 5, and Ashton Genty, Garrett Rangel for the Rangers facing off with Jet Huff and Marquise Collins of College State. These are two really, really talented, high-flying programs, and also not to mention lots of Division I talent on the field for that one, and Tyler is getting treated to a really fun game.
That's right, at Rose Stadium in Tyler. And by the way, the winner of the Lone Star College Station game will play the winner of the Highland Park Frisco Wakeland game next week. So that should be fun to look forward to as well. I got much more still to come here on Friday Night Stars. Another showdown at the Star that Kyle Youmans will be calling when we come back in just a moment.
This segment was brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. This segment is brought to you by WHATABURGER. Stop on by WHATABURGER and try the patty melt today. It's an all-time favorite for a reason.
Showdowns at the Star all weekend long, and capping it on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. It's Parish Episcopal against Prestonwood Christian, and Kyle Youmans, you will be calling that game.
And thank goodness, because 4 of the last 6 titles in the TAPS Division I realm has come from these two ball clubs. I mean, and this is also a rematch of a game earlier in the season, one of which that Parish won 35-9. I'm excited about this rematch, and I think these are two really, really good ball clubs.
All right, and let's talk about the quarterbacks here. Let's start with the Parish Episcopal quarterback. He's only a freshman. His name is Sawyer Anderson. He's the grandson of the Golden Palomino, former Green Bay Packer and Texas Tech Red Raider great Donnie Anderson. He's already a big man on campus.
You know, you don't really know how anybody's going to react until they get in. You know, it's like tea. You don't know what it's going to taste like till you put it in hot water. So, you know, we were hopeful. We'd seen a lot of good things over the summer, and he'd been in some pressure situations, but I would have never predicted, you know, that these would be the results. I'd be lying to you if I told you I thought this was going to happen, but I also knew we had a great supporting cast around it.
Well, first I met him. He was actually a good person, and he really nice at slinging the rock. And he's just as good as any quarterback I know.
I mean, it's a big responsibility playing at such a young age with all these older guys, and I wanted to accept the challenge, so I want to give him my all and help the team.
He's definitely the most humble kid I've ever met. He'll talk about how there's certain things he won't do because he feels as though he hasn't earned the right to do that. And so I think he knows that he's stepping into a big role and that people expect big things, and I think he's done a great job stepping up into it.
I'm 40 years old, and I still don't make as good of decisions as he makes on a nightly basis. So, I mean, I think his ability to quickly process and determine what needs to happen is really unique.
I think it's super impressive considering that he's been stepping into some guys, running full steam ahead, you know, wanting to hit a freshman. So he's done really well.
For a freshman kid to have that kind of mindset, I mean, the kid had recess last year and was on the playground. So, I mean, for him to come out here and just be able to be with 12th and 11th graders and 10th graders that are older than him. I mean, he can't even drive yet, but you would think the way he drives the offense down the field that he could drive a car, and he just plays like a way older kid than he is.
I mean, it's a big step from going to the monkey bars to, you know, Friday Night Lights. It's a big step. The seniors, juniors that have been here for a while, I want to keep the train going and just win for them. It means a lot to them, so I want to accomplish it. That's the goal.
From the monkey bars to Friday Night Lights. How about that? And more on that in just a sec. Here are the other notable games around the area. Argyle and Kennedale, Allen and Lake Highlands, Lovejoy and Burleson, and of course the game you're calling that we just were talking about there is Parish Episcopal plays against PCA.
Yeah, before we get into that Parish game, I'll mention that Lovejoy and Burleson game. Both teams scored over 70 points last week, so expect that one to have some points in it.
Yeah, and so we're talking quarterbacks. All these teams have great quarterbacks. We talked about Sawyer Anderson. PCA, don't forget about their quarterback.
No, not at all. And there's definitely a little bit of a storyline brewing there because whenever Parish and Prestonwood played the first time around, there was no quarterback there for Prestonwood. They had to go to a backup, and because of that, it was a very tightly contested ball game. It was actually 7-3 at halftime. Then Parish pulled away. Guys like Blake Youngblood really started to shine. Nathaniel Hill as well had a pretty good game. And then Andrew Paul, 172 yards, 4 touchdowns against the Lions the first time around. Parish relies a lot on the ground game and really controlling time of possession. I'm interested to see going into that game, Parish was number 1, Prestonwood was number 2. If they have their full set of cast and characters, the Lions might be able to push this all the way to the brink.
And one of the other games we showed you there, Lovejoy against Burleson. How about the matchup of sophomore quarterbacks in that game? Alexander Franklin for Lovejoy, Dylan Rayola for Burleson plays for former Cowboys player and coach John Kitna, who is the head coach there, and he tells me, look out for this sophomore quarterback.
Wow.
He's something special. As Burleson, the Elks went 8-3 during this season so far, trying to pull off the upset of Lovejoy at Prosper ISD Stadium on Friday night. All right, more Friday Night Stars, our power programs in a moment. It's time for our power programs here on Friday Night Stars, second round of the playoffs. And how about Kyle Youmans' power programs? I love it. 70 burgers.
I was a little hungry after the Cowboys put up a 40 burger on the Falcons last week, but I wanted a little bit more. How about 70 burgers? And then I started going down the list, Bill, and I saw 5 different teams, all at the 5A level, all with 70-plus points, some of which are playing each other, a.k.a. Lovejoy and Burleson. All of these teams just have high-flying attacks. They're going to come up against some of the better defenses in the state, but these are all first-round scores in 1 week across the table, putting up 70-plus. That's hard to do if you're playing on air.
Yeah, that's right. So you focused on the Class 5A playoffs. My power programs, I'm focused in the Class 6A playoffs, and in 6A Division I, South Lake Carroll plays Saturday night against Midland Legacy. If they win that game, they play the winner of the Louisville Martin game. And so in that top half of the bracket, look for them. Bottom half of the bracket, or in Region 2, Region 1 for Carroll, Region 2 for Duncanville. You got Duncanville playing Mesquite this week, and they would play the winner of the Spring Klein-Collins game next week. And so they are the team to watch down there. And then you go to Division 2. I love Denton Geyer in Region 1. But in Division 2, Region 2, the Heath Hawks of Rockwall, their only loss this season was to South Lake Carroll. They came from behind to beat them. 36-35 was the final score. Their quarterback, Josh Hoover, is a special one. Look for Heath. They play Temple this week. Then they get either Willis or Tomball. They could make another long run this year.
No, they definitely can, and it's all kind of working in their favor to get to that next step and to maybe make a deep run. I want everybody to take a look at that notebook. Can we see this notebook real quick from Bill Jones? That's the dedication that he has. He's had hand-drawn brackets. No printer needed. Bill Jones puts it on pen to paper.
I commit it to memory if I write it down in my big green high school football Friday Night Stars notebook, which will turn into a draft notebook.
I was about to say, that's usually the scouting notebook.
All right, the Landry Award. There might be some draft prospects that are receiving or candidates for the Landry Award this year when we come back in just a moment.
Friday Night Stars, presented by WHATABURGER, was brought to you by Geico, 85 years of savings and service. Texas Lottery, play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. And by WHATABURGER. Order online using the app or at whataburger.com for curbside pickup from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or delivery.
Well, it's almost Landry Award time. In early December, the Player of the Year in North Texas, that award will be presented. There's also a Coach of the Year, Tom Landry Award. And here are your finalists for the Landry Coach of the Year Award. Carlos Lynn of Cedar Hill, Kirk Martin, Colleyville Heritage, Joe McBride, McKinney Boyd, Danny David of Pilot Point, and Tony Benedetto of Woodrow Wilson High School.
And there are so many positive things you could say about all 5 of these leaders. That's good. That's just it. They're not just coaches. They're leaders amongst men and amongst young men at each of their programs. I know personally Kirk Martin, what he built at Manville and then was able to take to the collegiate level, now back to Texas high school football. Colleyville Heritage is very lucky to have a guy like him leading that program. Then Carlos Lynn, he's done it for years throughout DFW, the way he's built that Cedar Hill program up to new heights. And then this year, it was more of a turnaround job. They lost those 4 early games. Well, they've since rattled off a ton of wins for the Longhorns. And then I want to go all the way down to Tony Benedetto there at Dallas Woodrow Wilson, the impact that he's had on countless student athletes. He certainly deserved it. All of these guys are deserving of the finalists.
And a lot of people in Coppell know Joe McBride. In Louisville, Joe McBride as well. That's where he grew up, the Texas Tech Red Raider. Again, the Landry Coach of the Year Award will be announced in early December. Also, the Player of the Year. And by the way, tomorrow, Friday night, 6 o'clock on CBS 11, we will have the 5 finalists for the Landry Award Player of the Year. That does it for Friday Night Stars. For Kyle Youmans, I'm Bill Jones. Enjoy your high school football playoff weekend.